gone are we friends?
Hello, world. We may be cousins. We may act like brothers. One thing we do know is we know sports. You are now listening to Locked In with Max and Dave.
Cuzzo, man, we're feeling good tonight. You feeling all right?
I'm feeling amazing. But I want to start off today's show. Well, first, how are you feeling, Dave?
Thank you for asking. I'm feeling really good. I love our community. I love the Locked In fans. The Clyde Drexler, Jerry West on social media, on Twitter. It was awesome getting all that feedback. I love the Locked In family.
You brought it up. Locked In, social media, two ends. Twitter has officially announced who won. They think Jerry West deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore. So kudos to Dave. Whether you won the debate or not, Jerry West deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore according to the people, and we are a people's podcast Locked In with two N's on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. So thank you guys for getting involved with that poll. We really appreciate it, and like we said, like Dave just said, we are with the community. We listen to every feedback we get, and we take from it, we learn, and we grow.
I am pumping my fist like Tiger Woods in the mid-2000s. It feels good to win.
Wow. Okay, well, I want to start off today's show with a quick story saying that is going to relate and jump right into what we're talking about.
I love story time.
Okay, stick with what you know is my saying for today's show. I went into to get my hair cut, and I usually get it by the same person because I like my hair a certain style, so I know they can do it a certain way. So this new lady comes up, and I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't even like usually having someone else cut my hair, like I just said, who I don't know. But she's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to cut your hair, and I didn't want to be mean, and she seemed like she really wanted to cut my hair, so I said, okay. So, and then meanwhile, it's like halfway through the haircut. It's like, yeah, I'm a little nervous. It just started beginning. I'm like, oh, good God, what did I get into? So then I realized after the haircut, I'm like, it's not my best haircut.
Nah, it's not in your top 10 by far. I feel bad.
So if I would have just stuck with what I know and just went in there and get it from the person I know who could cut my hair the way I wanted to cut it, I wouldn't be having this discussion right now about how I don't like how my hair looks. So stick with what you know. And that jumps right into what I'm going into with Kyrie Irving.
Wow. Yep, I get it. Makes sense to me. I see the connection.
Kyrie Irving, obviously everybody in the Locked In community, sports world, everyone has heard Kyrie Irving does not want to play LeBron James. He wants to get out of Cleveland, and his four teams are the Knicks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the San Antonio Spurs, and there is one more, isn't there?
Miami Heat.
The Miami Heat. My first reaction, and it's the reaction I have now, is stick with what you know. If you stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know one thing for sure. You're going to the finals for the fourth straight year. Whether you win or lose, you're going to the finals. We know another thing. You're playing with the greatest player alive, arguably the greatest player of all time, who elevates others.
31 straight shows about how great LeBron James is. The record keeps rolling.
Another thing that we know that Kyrie knows. You don't have to guard the best player because Kyrie doesn't play the best defense. Don't worry, LeBron does that. Okay, let's do another thing. The spotlight is on LeBron James. That's another thing we know. So you don't have to worry about all the spotlight and all the attention and all, oh, what did you do? What did you dress this day? Last thing we do know for sure. Kyrie Irving takes more shots than LeBron James. So he's thriving in this situation. Don't leave Kyrie. Go with what you know. Stay in Cleveland.
Kyrie Irving is Paul McCartney, and LeBron James is John Lennon.
Okay.
That's my analogy. I think that's there. No? I cannot believe he doesn't want to keep on winning Eastern Conference championships and possibility of championships. Golden State is awesome. They are a dynasty. They are a team to wreck with, for sure. But an injury can happen. Clay can be unhappy in a year or two. Curry's had ankle problems back in the day. Kevin Durant missed most of the postseason 3-4 years ago with a foot. You just never know. So Kyrie, of course, should stay with Cleveland. LeBron has one more year in his contract. I think he really wants to stay in Cleveland. That's my gut feeling. He doesn't want to leave again. He doesn't want to become a free agent. There's just not a real natural fit anywhere. Like the Miami thing with the free agency, with him in his prime, he's never won. Wade needed more help. Bosch never won. He was a Toronto Raptor. It fit. Guys, LeBron's going to be in his 15th year. You know, I keep on hearing the Lakers, and then there's a Spurs. Like, nothing really fits. It just seems LeBron will be on his third NBA team. Michael Jordan's a Bull. I know he's a Wizard at the end. Magic Johnson, guys, he's a Laker. Most of the time, these all-time greats are usually a 1 or 2 team kind of a career. Of course, there's some guys that bounce back and forth, but you think of Derek Jeter, he's a Yankee. Even with the Heat, when you think of LeBron James, he's a Cavalier. Like, you really want to end your career as another team. I think he should stay in Cleveland. I think Kyrie should stay in Cleveland. I think they're peanut butter and jelly. I think they work great together on the court. I think it's a no-brainer, but hey, a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
That is true. We don't know what Kyrie is necessarily thinking because, he's out of the country right now. He understands all this media is going on, so it's probably the smartest thing as far as representing his brand, right? But as far as LeBron James, whether he leaves or not, Kyrie, you could leave when LeBron leaves. You suffer that 1 year when he leaves. Okay, but you still went to that finals. If he leaves, there's no guarantee Kyrie Irving ever goes to the finals again. And I think he's taking that for granted. I have to live with, I'm not the number one guy. You wouldn't be the number one guy. You're playing the greatest player in today's game. So I think Kyrie's really being selfish on this part.
Like the Max and Dave Locked In podcast. This podcast does not work without Max. It's not Dave Locked In. It doesn't work. Who wants to listen to just me jibber jabber all the time? Max, we need you 50-50. It's Max and Dave, peanut butter and jelly. We're locked in. We do it together. You can also find us on Facebook. Like us. We throw up videos. We throw up pictures. We got Ando Hutchinson. We got Pete White coming locked in August 10th at Thank You 5. Tickets at the door, $5. Be there or be square.
Yes, sir. That's going to be an event for the ages.
And real quick, I'm going to interrupt you before we keep on hitting Kyrie and going to Cleveland, Derrick Rose.
Okay.
You just talked about your haircut. You didn't mention that you liked my haircut.
That was going to be my second story, but thanks a lot, Dave.
Like, I got a haircut a month ago, and you were like, you got me. I pulled up to work, and you're like, Dave, your haircut's amazing. And I was at Copperline Coffee getting some good coffee. I got this new haircut, and this is my favorite haircut in the last 4 years.
Dave, my second story was going to jump into an NBA story and involved your haircut.
God
so
dang
let
it.
me tell this story. When you have to recognize greatness and you have to recognize when something works. Dave, your haircut works on you. And I was going to say, I recognize that.
Wow, I'm kind of tearing up a little bit. So,
and what I recognize from the NBA is that Derrick Rose works as a backup point guard. You have to recognize that as a Cleveland Cavalier fan. I feel Derrick Rose, if Kyrie stays, Derrick Rose is a perfect addition for the Cavaliers as far as a backup. I do not believe he is the player he once was. Even when he was the player he once was, he wasn't a winning player in my mind. Not a great shooter. Doesn't really elevate others. Has little issues off the court. But as far as the Cavaliers, I think anyone's an upgrade from Darren Williams from in the finals. I think Derrick Rose would give you that spark. But now that Kyrie's leaving, it's kind of hard to recognize what's going to happen. There's been rumors that Eric Bledsoe is a shared training partner between LeBron James and Derrick Rose. So who knows? I think Derrick Rose needs to come off the bench. If he's your starting point guard, you're in trouble.
I love this. The Derrick Rose sign-in, I took it really positive for Cleveland. And people are like, what? For one, we got into the NBA Finals. Darren Williams was unplayable. He was awful. Disgusting. He was a liability on the court against the Golden State Warriors. Then two, this is kind of Derrick Rose was kind of talked about even when Kyrie was still there. Then this thing kind of broke, and now Kyrie's gone, or could be gone. I think the Derrick Rose sign I like even more. Guys, he signed for $2.1 million. In the NBA, that's pennies. Mm-hmm. You know he's making less money than Cameron Payne, Michael Carter-Williams, Shelvin Mack, Shabazz Napier. Like, Derrick Rose last year, guys, look it up. Google image it. 16.5 points. He's not a great three-point shooter. I agree here. You don't want him he's not the MVP candidate.
He barely plays. He doesn't play the full season, though.
He played 62 games.
That's not the full season.
But it's not 3/4. Like, you can do a lot worse out there as your point guard than Derrick Rose. And especially if you got LeBron James, the best player in the world. You got Kevin Love, a top 7 power forward. Tristan Thompson, a top 10 center. J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, Mon Shumpert, Shannon Fry. I think it's a really good team. And they're going to get a valuable asset for Kyrie. For one, I'm not 100% giving up that this trade's going to happen. I really don't. It has to make sense for Cleveland. They're not just going to trade Kyrie Irving for pennies on the dollars. They're not trading them for Trevor Ariza and Ryan Anderson to the Houston Rockets, so the Rockets can have 3 point guards, James Harden, Chris Paul, and Kyrie Irving. They're going to get an Andrew Wiggins, an Eric Bledsoe. They're going to get a valuable asset. Maybe Carmelo Anthony and then the, Knicks future first-round pick at least. Like, they're going to get an asset.
They definitely need to get something for Kyrie. It has to be a win situation. If you're giving away your best player, well, not your best player, but Kyrie Irving, of course you're losing a huge star. So it's definitely going to leave its mark on the team. But they cannot let this hurt them for next season. They have to get something extremely valuable from this. They started to build their bench up. We said Jeff Green was a huge... I think it was a huge pickup. It was a great deal for the less money.
Loved
Who's
it.
just long, shoots threes, play defense. Derrick Rose, hopefully off the bench. If they could pull off an Eric Bledsoe or maybe an Andrew Wiggins, I think that's exactly what they need, or else they're in trouble.
So, with Eric Bledsoe, do you think you need another asset from Phoenix, or would you just be happy with, honestly, Eric Bledsoe and a future first-round pick for Kyrie?
I think you need another asset just because Kyrie Irving, you'd be losing that. Not only are you giving away your best, well, not your best player, a great player in Kyrie Irving, you need something back. You can't just give that up and not getting anything in return. Eric Bledsoe isn't as good as Kyrie, but if you add another asset, he could help your team in other ways.
I agree with you, but a wise man once told me Kyrie Irving is kind of damaged product. If you try to trade Kyrie Irving during the season last year, after he hit that three-point shot in Stephen Curry's face that I got the T-shirt on, you can get almost anything you want for him. Honestly, probably other than top 3-4 players in the league, you could have got Klay Thompson for Kyrie Irving maybe. But now he's damaged product. He's told the world, I want out. So if you're a team like Minnesota and this Wiggins trade is out there, dude, Andrew Wiggins is a legit player. Very young, still on the rise, averaged around 20 points, 21 points last year. You can't just, whatever Minnesota goes, nah, I don't want to trade Andrew Wiggins for him. I'll trade you Jeff Teague and Shabazz Muhammad. Like, what if teams don't give you a full, legit offer for Kyrie because they know they got to trade him?
That is a great point. A thing that kind of hints at me a little bit, jumps out at me, is Kyrie Irving has listed the teams that he wants to get traded to. But in all actuality, he doesn't choose where he wants to go to. He's getting traded. He's not a free agent. He's not able to just choose, I want to go here, I want to go here. The Cavaliers are choosing where they can benefit the most out of. So if Andrew Wiggins decides that, if the Timberwolves decide that Andrew Wiggins not for Kyrie Irving, that won't happen. But I honestly, if I'm Kyrie Irving, you're putting your faith in Dan Gilbert to make the right move. I would be scared if I was Kyrie Irving.
No, I agree. And I love the Wiggins. Wiggins averaged 17 points his rookie year, 21 points his second year, and then last year 23.6. His third year, he's averaging 24 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists.
He's a beast.
Yeah, he's really good.
Plays great defense, too.
He used to play great defense. I don't know what happened. Like, he used to be really long, athletic, played really good defense in college. His last year, he wasn't a good defender, and that's one reason why Minnesota was actually disappointed, because Rubio was bad and he was bad. They were just giving up so many points.
I think now that you add Jimmy Butler and you add other assets, you have Jeff Teague, it just, when you know you're losing, you don't put as much effort. We've seen Carmelo Anthony.
Great point, Max. Great point.
But now that I think that they're winning, I think he may put a little more effort. Now that they're going to a more positive direction, you'll see a little more effort on the defensive end, because he obviously, you see his offensive numbers improve. That means he's putting more effort to his offensive side of the ball.
Totally agree, Max, and I even got more nuggets for you. We talked about Vince Carter on a Mount Rushmore past episode on Locked In with 2 Ends. subscribe and download on iTunes like always, folks. Andrew Wiggins, not a three-point shooter when he came in the league. Shot around 30%. But he knew it's a three-point league now. Vince Carter knew, he didn't have to shoot threes in his whole career until the end, and now he's getting pretty good at it. Andrew Wiggins, in just his third year, is already up to 36% on three-point shooting. And I know you might be like, that's not a lot to 30. That's a big jump.
No, that's a huge jump.
So if he gets up to 38, pushing 40, dude, Andrew Wiggins is going to be around a 27-point player, young, athletic defender. 3 years, he's only missed one NBA game.
I would take Andrew Wiggins for Kyrie Irving if I knew if I knew Kyrie Irving was leaving.
Oh, I agree. I take Wiggins. The point guard's a problem. They're going to have to find another point guard. You can't go into the year with Derrick Rose and Jose Calderon as your 2 point guards.
I don't know why they signed Jose Calderon to begin with. I think he's injury prone himself. He's older, doesn't play as much, doesn't give you defense. I didn't understand that trade either. They're almost into chaos, and all signs are honestly showing that LeBron James is leaving. But can we shift to another player now?
We can. I kind of have one more LeBron, Kyrie discussion.
Go ahead.
I kind of brought this up to work, and I'm definitely getting it on the laser disc right now, getting it on
laser disc.
If I was the Cavs and Kyrie looked me in the eye and goes, hey, I'm not playing here, right? Mm-hmm. You know one of the teams I would want to trade him to?
Where?
The Los Angeles Lakers. You're like, huh? Why? What? Who? Where? What? That's the big rumor where LeBron James might go next year. And if they trade Kyrie Irving there, LeBron's not going there. Him and Kyrie are going to fight each other, right? They're going to be in UFC 250 main event for the middleweight championship, LeBron versus Kyrie. So how about you trade him to Los Angeles? Maybe you get Julius Randle. Maybe you get a draft pick. Maybe how about the kid Zuma from Utah, who was really good in the summer league?
Yeah, he's a stud. He's definitely.
So you get like Zuma and Randle for Kyrie, and now you at least close the door of LeBron going to LA. Like, you see that a little bit?
No, not at all. A couple things. First is I thought you were going to say Lonzo, and the Lakers would not trade Lonzo for Kyrie Irving.
I agree 100%.
Another thing, as well as the trade would have to work out where the Cavaliers feel like they got something for Kyrie Irving, and I think there are better options to get something back from Kyrie Irving than Julius Randle and Kuzma.
I agree, but do you see the point of trying to put an X on one of LeBron James' possible relocation spots next season?
You can't live like that, though, because if you do that, you're going to have a worst season this year, which is going to push LeBron James to go towards your banana boat theory in New York.
Am I at 11% now?
You are at 12% now.
Yes. LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and Dwayne Wade all end up in New York City next year with Kristaps Porzingis. The Banana Boat team wins a championship. New York, Madison Square Garden. 12%. You heard it here first.
The Laker idea, I get what you're saying, but definitely not, because I don't think they're going to live where, we don't want LeBron to do this. If LeBron James wanted to go to San Antonio, he'll go to San Antonio. Any team he wants to, he elevates them, and he would succeed. So I think by just limiting an option, but really hurting your team as far as the next season would not be the smartest decision.
Okay, I got you. The floor is yours. You want to bring up someone else? Jump with it.
Yes, sir. I already mentioned this player's name, and there's some serious talks with him or the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is Carmelo Anthony. I've heard him maybe going to the Portland Trailblazers with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. I've heard the Houston Rockets, obviously, James Harden, Chris Paul. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Russell Westbrook, and Paul George. Is the Cavaliers trying to get him for maybe Kyrie Irving? Where you say you have Carmelo Anthony staying as a Knick?
He will be a New York Knickerbocker next season. And I just have one funny thing I did think about the Thunder. That got brought up. So you got Russell Westbrook, the most shellfish player in the world.
Yes.
You bring Paul George to your team and you want to say, hey, Paul, join this team. We're going to give you the shots. So what's the second thing you do is add Carmelo Anthony, a guy all he does is shoot. That doesn't work. That doesn't make any sense at all, right? It's like,
nope.
It's crazy.
underrated thing that you kind of mentioned, no one thinks about because they think Russell Westbrook's so dynamic and ferocious. He actually had like the worst defensive rating last year as far as made shots on him, which means he didn't close out. He chased the rebound to get his triple-double. So you have a point guard who didn't play defense, and now you're adding Carmelo Anthony, who obviously does not play defense, on top of the non-ball movement, the stagnant offense, who just wants to shoot. That would definitely not work in Oklahoma City Thunder. If he does not stay with your Knicks, where do you see him going?
If he doesn't stay as a Knick, and I locked it in. I think he's a Knick next season. I don't think the new GM wants to trade him. He's an asset. But if you're asking me the question, he will be a Rocket. That's where he wants to go. I think he knows that D'Antoni's system would be good for him, and I would argue you might have the top two or the top three best passing guards in the world on the team. Melo will get easy looks, easy shots, easy buckets. A winning team, you get him out of the East, you get him out of LeBron's land, and I think the Houston Rockets become the third best team in the world. Melo, Harden, Chris Paul. So I think that's the place, but I locked it in. I can't go back on it. Carmelo Anthony will stay a New York Knick.
Wow, I think that's a debate for almost another show whether that would work in Houston, but I'm leaning towards he stays a Knick as well just because of the GM and his position on Carmelo Anthony. Is there any other basketball rumors that jumps out on you?
I'm still just like in awe of Derrick Rose signing with Cleveland and Kyrie Irving wanting out. Like, it's huge.
Another interesting fact, I believe, to cut you off real quick, is the last, I think, 6 or 7 years, obviously without Russell Westbrook, all the MVPs are either on the Golden State Warriors or on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now you have Derrick Rose, you have LeBron James, you have Steph Curry, you have Kevin Durant.
That's crazy. That's
insane.
Yeah. You can't make that stat up. All right, let's rotate. Jordan Spieth, British Open champion. We got the United States versus Jamaica in the Gold Cup final coming up. We have the UFC. I'm, huge fan. Last week they were on Fox. Chris Weidman in the main event defeated Kevin Gastelum. Third round. What is it called?
Arm triangle.
Arm triangle. That's a sick move. I loved it. I was going nuts, and they were in Long Island, his hometown. It was awesome.
Yeah, Chris Weidman. This was a crucial fight for Chris Weidman. After that loss to Luke Rockhold, which I thought he could have won, he just gassed out. Then he fights the
Romeo,
and then he was winning that fight.
I know.
And then just a random flying knee knocks him out. Okay, so that's 2 losses in a row. Bounce back champ. Then he fights Mousasi. And that was just the weirdest fight I've ever seen in the history of watching that sport.
His hand was down. It was like a no contest, and then they gave Mousasi the win.
Yeah, it was just despicable. So this was absolute must-win for Weidman, and the way he won it was spectacular.
Yeah.
Congrats to Chris Weidman.
And he was like, I'm back. I want to see that British bum for the strap. I loved it. Talking about Michael Bisping.
Everybody calls out Michael Bisping. George St. Pierre, Romeo.
I know, my grandma called him out. He's like, Michael Bisping, I want a future middleweight championship fight.
While we're talking about the UFC.
214 this weekend. John Jones Bones versus DC Daniel Cormier. I am pumped.
Are we jumping straight to the main event, or do you want to break it down? Because there's 2 other phenomenal fights on that fight card.
Max, you might be misleading. There's 3 more. How about Robbie Lawler versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone's on that card?
Oh, my.
That could be the fight of the year.
Is this the greatest fight card of the year?
It is. Remember, it's always in July. Like, that fight card and that card was so bad.
They screwed it up.
They got it's the biggest rematch of the year. Bones versus DC for the strap. They got Tyron Woodley. He's always an exciting welterweight champion. Big fight versus Damian Maia. You got Cyborg fighting for a title. Like I said, you got Cowboy versus Robbie Lawler, the ruthless one, with a picture with Dave. It's crazy. It's a stacked card.
Picture locked in with 2 N's on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our social media accounts. I want to dive right into it. Chris Cyborg is officially, and she may have always been, it's just Ronda Rousey was such a bigger star than she was. She's the biggest, baddest women's fighter there is. And there may be other talented young women fighters out there, but she's just too big for them. Even if they wanted to fight Cyborg, they'd have to go up in weight. And she's just, she's a beast. She's a grown woman amongst girls. I have Cyborg destroying her opponent, as always. Whether you like it or not, Cyborg's winning that fight.
Concur.
So let's jump right into the co-main event.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, well, who do you got with Robbie Lawler, Donald Cerrone? Do you have an all-out war? Do you just have this fight of the year candidate?
I really do. I love both fighters just because how exciting they are, and they both. And that's the thing. Usually, when you have two exciting fighters, one of them usually they're both like, okay, wins, losses. You know you're going to get a great fight. We don't know who's going to win. But with these two fighters, they're exciting fighters, but they both usually always win. Robbie Lawler was a champ. Donald Cerrone always wins. He only loses like a handful in the UFC, and those were to elite caliber people. So you have two elite guys, exciting fighters. Oh, this is tough because Donald Cerrone has been looking really good at welterweight. I think I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler.
That's who I'm picking.
Just because he's the bigger fighter. I love Donald Cerrone. I think he's more technical, but Robbie Lawler, you can't knock him out. I don't know what he has under his chin, and then he has that power, that heart of a lion. I have Robbie Lawler winning.
That picture that I took with him, I was like, ruthless, man. You're the best. I love you. He gave me time. And I was like, hey, man, you got a fight coming up with Cowboy Cerrone. What's going to happen? He looked right in my eye. He goes, second round TKO.
Is this true?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard about this until this episode.
I can't give you all my locked-in gossip, like, right outside of the work. We're in the studio. We're locked in. I got to give you some of the goose.
Wow, second round. I may have thought a third round knockout, if anything, but okay.
He looked at me right in the eye. I'm like,
he meant to.
Wow. Like his eye was like looking through my soul, like that eye. You know what I mean? When your dad yells at you when you don't do your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, how big was he? Do you think he was walking around? If he cuts to 170, walking around 185 at least.
I was gonna say at least he was 200 pounds.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But
I'm 192 pounds. He was bigger than me.
Yeah, that's crazy. Quick, while we're talking about weights, the UFC added 4 new weight classes.
I know.
It's confirmed, official.
Yeah. 225, 195, 175, and 165.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I don't know. It's too much.
I think it's too much. I think the UFC... when you start to expand so much, I understand there's going to be a lot of fighters that you don't know because there's so much up-and-coming talent and the sport's growing. But when you have a certain amount of weight classes, you're more familiar with the fighters and how many fighters there are and who's up and coming. When you have this many weight classes, I feel like there's going to be so many champs, a lot of fighters we may not even know. And then it almost discredits all the other fighters because there's been a lot of catchweight fighters such as Rich Franklin who fought at 195. Anderson Silva fought at 195. Now, if that was a weight class of their own, maybe Rich Franklin would have went for that title.
And I don't like... the presser, Conor McGregor, and then Floyd Money Mayweather, they say, hey, Conor, he's a 2 champion, this and this. And then Floyd comes up, he's the WBC champion and the ABC liquor champion and Publix champion. It's like they say 14 times. Guys, there should be 5, 6 champions at the most. It leaks. It's too messy. There's too many champions, too many belts. I don't want a title fight every other weekend. Like, a title fight should be special, and then a stack card like this one has 3 title fights on it. This is huge. This is big. Pretty soon you're going to have to put 2 or 3 title fights on every card because you got so many dang titles.
Completely agree. I don't really... not in love with that idea. So let's jump into co-main event.
Co-main. Tyron Woodley.
Damian Maia. Whew.
I got Woodley knocking him out in the first.
Yeah, I was taking a breath to make it look like I was thinking. I'm really not. I have Tyron Woodley, but I'm going to go second round just because he's a counter puncher. He doesn't usually jump first unless he's intimidated by the other person. And I don't think he'll be intimidated. He'll just be cautious of the takedown earlier. Damian Maia, he's a jiu-jitsu whiz. I'll give him second round, clips him with that left hand. Damian Maia is not known for his recovery and his stand-up. And Tyron Woodley gets that TKO.
Okay, so we're lining up just right. You know where I'm going with this. You know my least favorite fighter, maybe my least favorite athlete in the world, John Jones.
I could have guessed that one. Versus Daniel Cormier.
For the light heavyweight championship in Anaheim this weekend. Do you have any upset? Jones is a big favorite. He's the challenger, and he is the big Las Vegas money line favorite.
Do you want to take the floor on this one, or because I kind of have a lot to say on this?
No, so I'll let you run. I'll just jump in and say, I think it's gonna be a better and a closer fight than people think.
Agreed. I think the first time I was rooting for John Jones, just the fact that I appreciated his wizardry, his masterful game planning, and his creativeness in the octagon. He's very creative. He knew how to. He's just honestly the greatest of all time inside the octagon. But it's just his outside of the octagon issues, his personal issues that are just keep on tearing his image apart. So going into the second fight, after what he's done outside of the octagon, it's hard to root for that kind of guy. I am rooting for Daniel Cormier, which I didn't do the first fight. That being said, I think Daniel Cormier, anytime you lose to someone the first time, you learn more off of a loss. I feel like he'll look at what he struggled with against John Jones. That range seemed to bother him. Those front kicks to the stomach seemed to gas him out. He had a little bit of success, but obviously go back, look at the film. He has an elite training camp at AKA. But John Jones is a freak of nature. He has an 84-inch reach, the longest reach in UFC history. He's never really lost in the outcome besides that one disqualification, which he was dominating. I don't want to give you who I think is going to win because that's my locked in. But that's my breakdown of the fight. I'm rooting for DC either way.
Oh, I'm rooting for DC huge. I love DC. I like him on the mic. I like him on the suit. I like him in the Colin Cowherd show. I'm a DC guy, and I'm just so anti-John Jones. It's crazy. I don't get... And Max, he's my Aaron Judge. He's my Tony Romo. I was the first guy on John Jones. But they canceled a UFC because of John Jones. He's missed 4 title fights. He's got suspended for steroids. He's got suspended for cocaine. He hit a pregnant woman in a car. I don't understand. I don't like the man. I just don't get it. It's crazy.
Yeah, like I said, it's his out of the octagon
I'm rooting for DC huge. I'm rooting for him. I think it's going to be a closer fight. I got Jones winning the fight. You just can't go away from greatness. I think he's going to do it. But, I'm hoping. But, I guess if you were there, we'll go locked in because my locked in kind of goes with that as well. So if we're there, we're with it. UFC 214, definitely get it. Pay-per-view, Dana White, UFC in Anaheim. But, Max, that time of the show, let's get locked in.
Yes, sir, but I want you to take the floor.
Okay. I'll take it. Either way, and I'm hoping for a win from Daniel Cormier. If John Jones loses this fight, the next time John Jones gets into an octagon, it will be against Brock Lesnar. Yep, let that sink in for a second. UFC is trying to make big, huge money fights, and it literally doesn't get bigger than that. Brock Lesnar's humongous. John Jones has been, threatening and, throwing out there he's won to become a heavyweight. And that fight would sell out any arena, would be one of the biggest pay-per-view buy rates in the history of the UFC. Brock Lesnar and John Jones for no title. It would just be a money-making fight. It's like Floyd and Conor. It's just big names. It would get press tours. Brock Lesnar, John Jones coming to a UFC near you.
Wow. I think there was a lot of rumors about that, but didn't Brock Lesnar decline that's not happening? I know Brock's your guy, so I know you have the insight, the scoop.
Of course, I talked to his wife last week.
So it's what's the percentage you think?
50%.
Wow.
No, of course, you're in negotiations. You don't just tell a job, I work there, give me $10 an hour. And be like, I might have something else on the side. I might go to Publix or whatever. I might do this. And then they offer you $12.50 an hour, and then you take it.
He took steroids last time he fought Mark Hunt, didn't he?
So does John Jones. I always say it would be a great fight. You got the druggie, and you got Brock Lesnar.
The bigger druggie. Okay, so my locked in, I'm speaking from the heart. I'm not speaking with my mind. I'm speaking with my heart this time. When John Jones and Daniel Cormier enter that octagon this Saturday, I believe Daniel Cormier will take advantage of John Jones' ring rust, and he will upset John Jones. When John Jones came in the octagon, his last fight against St. Proulx, he won, but it was closer than it should have been because of his ring rust. Now he has just as much ring rust. Daniel Cormier has been proving himself time and time again. I think he's too driven. He's too determined. If you think John Jones is going to win, you are not crazy. It's hard for me to bet against John Jones. If he wins, I will not be surprised, but I need to just go with Daniel Cormier for what he stands for and what John Jones stands for. Rooting for Daniel Cormier. I'm going for him to grind it out with the 5-round decision. He takes John Jones down in the early 5th round, and he wins that 5th round to win and remain the light heavyweight champion of the world. Daniel Cormier wins by decision because of the 5th round.
I love it, Cuzzo. That's awesome, buddy.
You know
I'll
how
be
we do? We
pumped.
get locked in.
Cool. Well, that's it for me. I'm done. TheWinningTake.com. Check them out with the podcast. Stitcher Radio for the Android users. You can look us up on YouTube. Like our Facebook page. See what we got coming up new. iTunes. Subscribe and download, please. We're there. We got t-shirts. We got hats. We got coffee cups. Locked in. Social media, Instagram and Twitter. We got Max with 3 Z's. David Van Auken. You know how to spell it already. We are pumped. Cuzzo, stay locked in.